Hello and welcome to this BioProcess International Ask the Expert webcast. I'm your host, Leah Rosen, the online editor for BioProcess International. Before we get started, just a couple of notes. This webcast is being recorded and will be made available for replay in the multimedia section of our website. We've muted the audio lines, but we welcome you to type in your questions for our speaker in the question and answer window on your screen. After the presentation, we will begin the question and answer portion, and I will ask our speaker your questions. Your questions in the question and answer window will only be visible to myself and our speaker. So thank you for joining us today. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Patrick Haley from Avid Bioservices.
Thank you, Leah, and welcome everybody. Today I'll be talking about sustaining project management business continuity and partnerships throughout COVID. A little bit of background and the overview. So Avid Bioservices has experienced significant growth, really beginning in 2020 and continuing on throughout 2022 and beyond. So our annual revenue was $54 million in fiscal year 2019. That increased to $96 million in 2021, and we're already projecting $117 million in fiscal year 22. So the timing of this growth really coincided with COVID. That offered both complications and opportunities during the time. So in this webcast, I'll share some of the highlights of how the Project Management Office employed technology and communication techniques to maintain business continuity and material supply to our partners and ultimately the patients they serve. And this was really throughout COVID and each surge. Some of the key learning objectives is establishing functional and solutions to ensure partner engagement and transparency through communication when on-site restrictions were in place. This would be such as PIP restrictions or even staff restrictions that were at Avid. And then lessons learned to maintain both internal and external partner engagement during these challenging times. The audience for this is really senior and mid-level project management, including business operations and also technical professionals that are working in the contract manufacturing organizations, really in pharmaceutical and biotechnology industries. High-level agenda for today. So we'll give you some background of Avid Bioservices, then get into more detail around Avid's Project Management Office, so a high-level overview of that. We'll get into the COVID problem statements, and then also the opportunities and lessons learned throughout the COVID pandemic. So Avid as a high level, we are a dedicated CDMO with experience in manufacturing biopharmaceuticals really derived from mammalian cell cultures. We've been around for 29 years. This includes 17 years of commercially approved supply. So we really have been around, we have a lot of experience, although I think our name is becoming more and more recognized as a key player in the CDMO industry. We manufacture innovator and biosimilar drug substances under GMP for both clinical and commercial supply. And we have a broad range of manufacturing scales from 100-liter bioreactors all the way up to 2,000-liter bioreactors. We have industry partners so that we can offer a full range of services. So Avid's core competency is drug substance manufacturing. We partner with other companies for cell line development or drug product manufacturing so that Avid can be that one-stop shop to take a partner all the way through from cell line development to drug product. And our service approach is flexible, so you can have a menu of your choice. Our partners will come in and they can either choose a full package all the way through PPQ, or we can do a small development project either in PD or analytical development. And our board has significant experience in contract manufacturing and biologics. And they really have the vision that's allowed Avid to grow significantly and continue to expand its footprint. So I mentioned that we've been around for 29 years, and this is a slide really demonstrating the timeline of those years. So in 1993, we began cell culture development and manufacturing. So we have a long history in drug development. In 2002, Avid Avid BioServices was formed, and it was really formed to manufacture the primary target of the company at the time, and also that excess capacity was then used for contract development manufacturing. Our first client was signed in 2003, and then in 2005 we had our first FDA commercial approval, and that was with Halozyme Therapeutics, which is in the public domain, one of our key clients. In 2012, our first EMA commercial approval was gained, and then in 2016, we commissioned our new Myford facility. This is a state-of-the-art facility that's all single-use. In 2018, Avid BioServices was launched, and it really became a dedicated contract and development manufacturing organization at that time. We were also lucky enough to gain the ticker on the NASDAQ stock exchange, CDMO. In 2019, we expanded our PD and pilot capabilities, and then in 2020, we initiated and completed our first expansion of the Myford facility, allowing for more drug substance manufacturing capabilities. We continue that expansion through 2022 and beyond. And in 2021, we launched into the viral vector space as well. This growth is really experienced in our operations functions. So in process development, in 2021, we brought on the Amber and TCAN. In the Myford North facility, we also expanded to bring on 2 2,000-liter bioreactors. In 2022, we're bringing on additional PD expansion through pilot work, as well as the Myford South facility with a capability of 6 by 2,000-liter bioreactors. And then 2023 and beyond, we'll be bringing online our cell and gene therapy manufacturing, a centralized warehouse for weigh and dispense to support all of the manufacturing operations, and continued process development expansion of our current facility. So that's a high-level overview of Avid and some of the services and capabilities that we have. Getting into the detail of the Avid Project Management Office, we really focus on being client-centric, and that's our mantra in the office. We are dedicated and client-centric, so one project manager is assigned at the beginning of a project, and that project manager is with the partner throughout the life cycle of the project. We also assign a backup project manager to become familiar with the project in case our primary project manager is out of office. So then you have dedicated and seamless support throughout the project. Our project management team all comes from a technical background, so they're familiar with the drug development process. We really find this helpful in finding solutions and knowing the right functional areas to go to quickly. Our communication, we have bi-weekly team meetings. We also offer one-on-one project management to project management meetings with our partners, and that could be on a weekly basis, but as needed. We have ad hoc technical meetings when needed as well, and we're really beginning our kickoff projects with dedicated weekly upstream or downstream meeting to really make that transfer into Avid seamless. Aside from meetings, we offer project workbooks with a collaboration site that offers 24/7 access to both our internal and external partners. And these project workbooks can be tailored to include additional tabs for more detailed tracking throughout the life cycle of the molecule. So as we approach GMP production, then tabs will be inserted for documents, batch record tracking, and such. It's become a powerful tool for both our internal team and our clients. We heavily rely on detailed updates, so we pride ourselves on having detailed contracts that can be monitored and tracked. We also provide project status updates on a bi-weekly basis, monthly financial reports to support our partners, and also Avid's revenue recognition. And then I mentioned the project workbooks to support communication, and ultimately we're looking for project success. We are deliverables driven, where our project deliverables are clearly defined in our contract, and those are monitored and brought up to both the internal and external project teams for tracking. So we clearly define these so that we can close and invoice projects correctly when all the deliverables are met. We're timeline driven as well, where we establish the expectations early on for not only the delivery of project deliverables, but also delivery of key project management elements such as meeting minutes and communication responses. So our baseline detailed project plan is actually required to complete our project transfer, and that's tracked and monitored throughout the life cycle of the project. We also offer escalation pathways, so this can include routine meetings with the head of project management and our COO, and also routine joint steering committee meetings. We have escalation pathways that can be available, and we'll talk about that in more detail throughout this presentation. One of the aspects that have been brought online through COVID is more immediate escalation that really engages our clients and our partners. Some of our metrics that we're monitoring in the project management office. So we have 23 actively managed projects. These range from phase 1 partners all the way to commercial molecules. We have currently 6 dedicated project managers on the team with 3 open positions as Avid is rapidly growing. We have 3, so 3 is our target number of clients not to exceed per project manager. And that's really to allow for client-centric support. So ensuring that our partners have that dedicated support and the contact and relationship that they need in order to grow and be successful. And 24/7 is the project manager availability for client communication. So each project manager really has a goal every calendar year to demonstrate going above and beyond to support the clients, the partners that we serve. And this is important for monitoring and maintaining that client-centric partnership and the client-centric mantra. So as we pride ourselves on being client-centric, our high-level COVID risk for the project management office that we encountered during COVID really focused on communication, partner engagement, transparency, both internal and partner transparency, and ultimately business continuity. So ensuring that our business wasn't interrupted and our partners' products were not interrupted as well, so that we could continue to serve patients. On a high level, the COVID impacts that we encountered, breaking it down into a few categories. Internal communications. So we had a heavy reliance on conference rooms for meetings prior to the COVID pandemic, and a heavy reliance on direct face-to-face contacts. And that was internally as everyone was in the office. Also, partner communications. COVID did require us to restrict PIP activities, especially during the surges. And then building the relationship with trust without direct interactions. So how we continue to build relationship with our clients without being able to see them in face-to-face for the last few years. And then operations continuity, ensuring that our resources were not constrained, and then dealing with the supply chain constraints that were brought on by COVID and really are encountered today as well. So breaking this down into the initial problem statement around internal communications, COVID brought on the immediate move away from direct face-to-face communication within our internal customers and team members. And this is really internally at Avid. So we had a high reliance on conference rooms for meetings. And at the beginning of 2020, the PMO, along with the functional team members, were heavily reliant on conference rooms for both internal and external meetings. So conference rooms really did align with our expectations of building face-to-face relationships with our team members, both internal and external. And then Avid's growth profile had already constrained conference room availability. So conference rooms were extremely hard to come by. And then there was a reliance on direct face-to-face interaction with our partners, our clients. So at the beginning of 2020, direct face-to-face interactions with our functional SMEs, so this would be our internal teams, was also impacted as well, was preferred according to our project management office. So we really wanted to build direct relationships with the people on site in order to understand who to go to and how to react quickly to our clients' needs. So building the relationships face-to-face with our internal organization aligned with our expectations as well. And that SME availability and tracking remained a constant challenge before COVID also. So knowing where people were, knowing how they would want to be communicated with when everyone was extremely busy within the office became challenging even before COVID. So the opportunity and some of the implementations that were brought on during the pandemic. So COVID did bring the immediate movement away from direct face-to-face communication with our internal customers and team members. But really the opportunity is that this was a long overdue and necessary for Avid Bioservices growth profile. So with our reliance on conference rooms, the team was already employing virtual meetings with our external partners as standard operations. So although all our internal team members would gather in a conference room, we were using virtual communication to our external partners. So culturally, we had to initiate a quick shift in how the organization really maintained and held meetings, either internally or with partners. And this was really to ensure safety and throughout COVID. So it was necessary for these virtual meetings to become standard. And that's really the case now. This wasn't a hard shift as the conference rooms were no longer a limiting factor in calling meetings. And it really brought everyone online to engagement in a virtual setting versus the face-to-face setting as the new norm. So the reliance on direct face-to-face interaction, really, again, the team pivoted to the virtual connection with the team members to ensure safe operations and maintain business continuity. And as the project management team, we generated matrices with communication preferences that was employed for our internal partners as well. So similar to this table below, the project management team for each project would record names, project roles, their mobile numbers, preferred communication method during business hours, and any notes. So having these for, one, our functional groups, so key for manufacturing, upstream and downstream, also for PD, upstream and downstream, and analytical, allowed us to know names and contacts in any instance for our internal team members. So from this, then we could figure out, one, how they preferred to be communicated during working hours. And if there was a reason to contact them after hours, we would have their mobile number. It also allowed for the PMO to maintain notes if there were any key points that we needed to write down regarding team members and preferred communication. So these matrices then were available to the entire project management team as a tool that could be used for contacting our internal team members. We generated something similar with our external partners as well, and we found them to be very helpful in that key of generating quick and rapid communication. So moving on to the partner communications, the problem statement here was COVID immediately changed our ability to host person and plant representatives during the surges to maintain business continuity. And this made building partner trust and relationship a challenge. So with the restriction of PIP, prior to COVID, Avid has always welcomed PIP for critical operations and really to build a relationship between our technical team members, so the internal team members, along with our external partners. So PIP hosting for manufacturing and PD activities had always been a key differentiator according to our partners. So a partner feedback, this was something that they all enjoyed and liked to be able to, one, build that relationship, but two, engage the technical team members and be on the floor. PIP hosting also allowed for our partners to build trust in Avid's capabilities and competencies and really humanize the interactions during projects and meetings. And then PIP allowed for real-time viewing of manufacturing data and to be available if troubleshooting was necessary. So if a challenge was encountered during the manufacturing operations or PD operations, the client representative would be on site in order to pivot and make decisions quickly. We also did rely on face-to-face interactions on a routine basis to build trust and partnership. So prior to COVID, Avid did encourage direct face-to-face meetings on a routine basis with our partners to do that, to build the relationship. And this strategy aligned with our PMO expectations of ultimately building relationships and maintaining our client-centric approach. So our opportunity during this time was that COVID really brought the opportunity to establish means to keep partners informed without travel on site and to build trust through consistent and detailed communication during operations. So I mentioned previously around the internal communication challenges of generating the matrices in order for us to follow. With the partner relationships, we did something similar and really implemented text notifications as a means to keep our partners informed. So we would have internal text chains where we established between each one of the groups 4 key projects. So there would be an internal upstream group, internal downstream group, and internal analytical group that would be available if a challenge was encountered during key operations. And this could either be in the manufacturing setting or the PD setting. So we also established partner text chains. So these were established to really increase manufacturing or, if necessary, PD notifications. And they included the internal project manager as well as the backup PM, the internal technical leads, the internal analytical leads, and the internal quality needs, as well as the partner counterparts. So from the partner side, there would be the technical, analytical, quality, and regulatory if it was commercial production that we were dealing with. So these text chains could then be engaged for immediate notification. And it's one of the things that our partners have really appreciated throughout the COVID pandemic. Throughout these text chains, really what it allowed us to do is increase our daily updates. So as PIPs could not be on the floor routinely, we found other ways to really pivot to provide updates and make sure our partners were informed. So Avid and our partners would align on the content of enhanced daily updates throughout operations when PIPs could not be on the floor. And then the PMO would support to ensure delivery in a timely manner. So internally, our operators on the floor knew what they needed to capture via text or photos by cell phone. So this really could include viability or cell density, any screenshots from our HMIs or bioprofile units, and then photos of key things such as bioreactor foam levels if the client was interested in that, or the actual chromatogram from the elution profile of chromatography steps, or the resin beds as well. And then the text chains were utilized not only for the enhanced daily updates on the manufacturing floor or the PD floor, but also to notify clients of quality events in a real near-time manner. So we could really make decisions as a team jointly and engage all of our team members on the client side. So the PMO would partner with our clients to ensure instant visibility to the operations. But this also allowed us as the project management office to better track the quality events that could impact release timelines. So it was benefiting us in that manner as well. The final problem statement that I'll talk about is the operations continuity. So COVID immediately increased the risk of maintaining business continuity at Avid. So ultimately increasing the risk of our ability to help serve patients and improve lives. As far as resource constraints go, so prior to COVID, Avid was ramping up for increased production through increased recruiting. COVID not only put the safety of those directly impacted that were already in our office at risk, but it also impacted the surrounding employees through contact tracing. And this was a challenge that we hadn't really experienced before. So of course, we had individuals that might be out for a few days due to illness, but we had not experienced that there could be people impacted and have to be out of the office due to being around people that may have COVID. So this significantly increased the number of staff that were required to be out of office for extended periods of time. So either through COVID directly or through contact tracing. And then the previous spaces that Avid had didn't necessarily allow for clear social distancing. And we realized that key individuals or groups could be impacted quickly. So throughout COVID, the realization came that with contact tracing, you could lose an entire group of people that might be necessary for key operations, not just one individual. Also, we heavily realized were supply chain constraints. So prior to COVID, Avid had a robust and evolving supply chain that was gearing up to meet the demands of our increased growth profile. So bringing on more partners and all of the new bioreactors, bringing on all of those materials. Significant delays were found in lead times of raw materials or even equipment. And oftentimes, deliveries from our vendors were rescheduled with increasingly unreliable delivery dates. Oftentimes, our supply chain would be expecting material from previous commitments from vendors to be delivered on one day, and then the day of delivery, they would have an updated notification of a new delivery date that could be weeks or months out in advance. So planning strategies needed to adapt to the current unpredictable biopharmaceutical material landscape really brought on by COVID. The opportunity in this operations continuity was that we really pivoted to protect all our employees and recalibrate our supply chain for long-term success without business interruptions. So establishing contingencies for business continuity, our key MSAT staff, which was our manufacturing sciences and technology staff, were identified as manufacturing backups, and it really as a fail-safe. So these staff would be able to work from home during COVID surges, but be available in case they needed to come in. So by maintaining that work from home situation, they were protected and would be the backup in case there were people impacted in operations for extended periods of time. And then all staff who could effectively work from home or transition to that environment, and that allowed space for all of our team members. The operations team that were required to be on the floor, there's some of the quality team members that were required to be on site, and our analytical team. So everyone was able to spread out to effectively in better social distances. More offices became available, so people were and housed in offices that weren't necessarily theirs, but were more welcome to be maintained and used throughout COVID. And then with the supply chain constraints, we had to really recalibrate supply chain for long-term success and increase communication with our project management office for partner notifications. Since this was such a key area impacted, we implemented weekly material tracking for our project management office and supply chain. So together to come together as a team for tracking any material delays or any materials that would need to be brought on as second sources. So this was a joint effort and really provided visibility and transparency, not only internally, but to our partners as well. And it's something that our partners have appreciated, and we can provide what is on our radar from a COVID standpoint that could potentially be impacted in the future, and how we can mitigate that really to ensure success as we head into production. And then aligning business development and the project management office for the supply chain constraints to engage partners early for orders and bill of materials lock. So in essence, our strategies for bringing on partners really became to, instead of signing an initial contract that would cover all of the scope, making sure our partners were aware that supply chain constraints were being realized and getting in front of that. So either signing an LOI specifically for long lead time materials as we negotiated contracts and locked in scope, or making sure that the client was aware as they were becoming our partner that the supply chain constraints were realized and providing a realistic timeline there. And then the supply chain itself, they implemented a cadence for communication with vendors and internal customers. So on the supply chain side, this is a snapshot of their daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly updates and communication matrix for what's going on, including daily huddles to ensure success and all materials are available, as well as weekly, monthly, and quarterly cadence activities. So the ultimate lessons learned from the COVID pandemic, from the project management standpoint, we did the challenges encountered during COVID required flexibility and pivots in strategy to ensure, one, our partner engagement and our business continuity. And ultimately, we really wanted to maintain our client-centric approach to how we manage project management, making sure that we had transparency and communication and partner engagement. These challenges and changes that we implemented are really sustainable and will remain in place long after COVID for Avid to continue that client-centric approach and offer more flexibility to our customers. So ultimately, Avid increased our partner communication and transparency to build trust and to build a positive relationship with our partners. So culturally, cutting the ties to the conference room was a big step for everyone. In fact, our conference rooms now can be used for housing potential PIP, or can be used for a space to social distance as we grow and bring on more team members. The employing of text chains for real-time communication with either internal teams or partners, regardless of locations, was a big win by all parties as far as offering transparency and rapid communication and engagement. The alignment of partners on the increased communication during manufacturing operations instead of PIP offered solutions both for Avid and our partners, so they weren't relying on coming on site. And then the real-time notification of quality events to engage decision makers from the partner standpoint is another win. And that's really prior to our formal email notifications that would be required to go out based on our quality agreements. So we had increased functional touch points to provide transparency to partners on critical supply chain items. So from a project management standpoint, we now are more informed on a weekly basis of what materials may be at risk, as well as what may be coming down the line for backup or second source materials. Ultimately, all of this is continuously improving our client-centric project management to better serve our partners. So I wanted to thank everyone for their time and listening in today. We have contact information here if you do have any follow-on questions. Cody Green is our marketing main point of contact, and myself, Patrick Haley, here, who heads up the project management office here at Avid. So thanks again, everyone, for your time. I can turn it back over to Leah. I want to thank the audience, and Leah, thank you again.
Okay, great. So we have a couple of questions for you. How is Avid managing PIPs now that we're past the COVID surge?
Yeah, thanks, Leah, for that question. So now that we have passed the COVID surge, we are welcoming back PIP for critical operations. You know, one thing that we have maintained is that if a client is unable to come on site to be a PIP, that we can still offer that enhanced communication with the daily updates or the images that they may need to see from a chromatogram. But we do offer PIP on site now. We do ask that they would follow our current COVID policies, which may include providing negative testing within 24 to 48 hours prior
And were there any challenges encountered with more reliance on technology than times before COVID?
I would say our technology that we employed was fairly simple, with text being the main thing to increase communication with our clients. And the one thing that we did find is that we would establish partner text chains, and inherently there would need to be someone added to that chain. So maintaining the most current chain was, I think, a key function that we still do need to ensure that we are on the current text chain when notifications go out.
Okay, it looks like we have time for just one more question. If we didn't get to your question, we will be sending those to Patrick, and he can follow up with you directly. So the last question for the webcast is, you mentioned the technical background of the PMs. Did this help during the COVID time more than other times?
Yes. So the answer to that question is yes, it did. That has been a nice differentiator, is our technical background. And as we're bringing on new PMs that also have that technical background, understanding the functional relationship, so upstream, downstream, what they do in the drug development process, does allow our PMs to really quickly find who they need to contact. We have our matrices that lay out our contact information and basically our team's roles, but having a background of drug development and that technical background really serves our project management team to go right to the source to find out the answer and really keep our partners informed quickly.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Patrick. And thanks to our audience for joining us. The recorded version of this webcast will be available for on-demand viewing on our website, and as a registered attendee, you will receive a follow-up email providing us a direct link. We look forward to having you join us at future BioProcess International Ask the Expert webcasts. Look for those announcements in your inbox. Goodbye.